Death does not scare me. Not reaching my fullest potential does. Hey, it's me, your success coach Vera, and if you're a Gen Z looking to reach your fullest potential, then keep listening. This podcast, you'll learn the 5 simple and practical ways and tools to start reaching your fullest potential. And I'll also share my personal story of emigrating from Russia to America with zero English, like absolutely none, to now being a successful creator and entrepreneur with good English. I hope. Welcome to my podcast, Launch to Success with Vera V. 3, 2, 1. Launch to Success with Vera V. My story. Let's start with that. So as I've already mentioned, me and my family are from St. Petersburg, Russia. Actually from the outskirts of it. It was like 40-minute drive by car, which seems like a lot, but it didn't really feel that way. Because I feel like in Russia, I don't know, in St. Petersburg especially, it may take you up to 2 hours to drive from one end of the city to another. And if you know anything about St. Petersburg, and this is what I tell everybody when they're like, where are you from? And I say St. Petersburg. They're like, oh, St. Petersburg. I'm like, yeah, you probably know about architecture. The architecture in that city is absolutely beautiful, stunning, and gorgeous. Something about me is that I have 4 sisters. And usually when I tell people that fact, they're quite surprised by it, which is, yeah, it is surprising because we are a big family. But my sisters are my absolute best friends, the closest people to me. And my parents as well, but my sisters especially. We're like this, you know what I mean? So because we were so close, we had a pretty fun childhood, honestly. Because we were living on the outskirts of St. Petersburg, I grew up in a forest, kind of. So we would always be running, walking, doing this and doing that, organizing concerts, getting everybody together, all the guests, when people would come over to our house, getting them together to showcase a new fashion show or a new music concert, or I was reading poetry, I remember, in between our little shows. So it was a very creative childhood, which I'm really grateful for it because I feel like it impacted me in a positive way now. Another thing that really shaped me is anytime we would take family walks in the forest in Russia, which if you know a single thing about Russia, you know that it's very cold and there's a lot of snow, especially in the winter. So when we would take walks, and I remember we would sometimes whine to my dad like, oh, we're so tired, like it's been such a long walk. And you know what he would tell us when we were tired? He said, don't walk, run. Which sounds absolutely insane, and it kind of was. But that really shaped my outlook on life, because here's the thing. When you feel like you're done and you've given it your all, you're only 60% there. You still have 40% to give. So if you're tired, don't walk, run. And so because fitness was such a big part of my life, something about me is that I grew up wanting to be a professional tennis player, actually, up until the age of 11, which is when I quit. But we'll get to that. So that was that. And then I had a good life, honestly. I was in school. I had friends. I was a really great student, per usual. I love learning. And then 2013 came around, and me and my family, we had to leave the country fast. There wasn't really much of a choice in that matter. I won't go into detail, but basically I knew zero English, like absolutely none. Zero. We were learning it in Russia in like 2nd grade, but all the teachers would be like, this is a dog. This is cat. This is a friend. I remember my grandma, she gave me a notebook that said, my friends is best. She was like, oh, this is your gift for going to America. And I was like, thank you, grandma. Wow, English. I don't know. I have no idea what this says. And so I remember we came here, and I remember my first day of school, going into American school in California, which is where I still am actually. And I remember I was sitting in class, and it was actually a class for people who did not know English, so English learners. It was called ELD, if you're familiar with that. And I remember I had a Persian boy next to me and also a Persian girl, and she was really nice. Like, we started becoming friends without talking verbally, which is a really cool skill, I guess. And I remember he asked me, what grade are you in? And I was like, grade. Like, I was going through my whole database of English that was very limited. And I was like, grade. And I thought he was asking me about a garden. So you know what I did? I didn't say anything. I just looked at him dead in the eye and didn't say a single thing. Then he repeated himself, what grade are you in? And once again, blank, because I had no idea what grade meant. But before I was placed in the ELD class, I was first in just the regular class with all native English speakers. And I was there for like about a week until a spot opened up. And I remember sitting there and people were talking and I had no idea what they were saying. My head was hurting so bad. So what I would do in my free time, because obviously I could not follow along with whatever they're doing because I didn't know the language, I would take out a notebook and I would look at all the walls. You know how in 4th grade or like 5th grade, they always have stuff written on the walls, like little words or grammar or whatever. I would write down every single word that I did not know, every single one. And then later I would go home and I would translate that word and I would learn it. That's how I learned English. And something else I did on a regular basis to just be able to communicate is I would read books aloud to my dad. And my dad, he knew some English. He was pretty good at it, so he was able to kind of teach me. But I remember this one book specifically, The Power of Poppy Pendle, which is a children's book about like this girl who whose mom forbids her from practicing magic, and then she does something like that. I finished that book, I think, in about a month because I would spend hours every single night reading it to my dad aloud. I did not know more than half of the words in that book, and guess what I did? I wrote down every single word that I did not know. I later translated it and I learned it. That's how I learned English. I also read Maleficent that way and later watched the movie, and it was absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's pretty challenging, honestly, moving from a country where you had friends and you're kind of with the same mindset with the people, like culturally, and then you move to America where everything is so different and people are so different and you don't speak the language at all. You're kind of torn from a place where you were and you're placed into a new one, and you have to adapt because there's no other way. And so being in the ELD class, fourth grade, it was really fun, but then I learned English in fourth grade and it was more or less good. So in fifth grade, I was placed back to the normal native English speakers class. And I remember first day, kids were talking, and obviously I was able to understand like maybe 70% of what they were saying. And then we were broken down into groups. And mind you, before this, I was kind of a very open and talkative person just by nature. I don't know, I liked making friends and I liked getting to know people. But when we were placed into groups, I had to speak, and I was so self-conscious about my English because it was not that great. The turn came to me because I think we were sharing an answer to some sort of question, and I just looked blankly at everybody and not open my mouth. And then the guy next to me, I remember his name, Wyatt. I remember his last name too, but I'm not going to say that. He was like, "Why is she so quiet?" And from that point onwards, I became a very shy child. I did not open my mouth at all. And I think a lot of shy kids can relate, where you have so much to say, but you just doubt yourself, so you never end up saying anything. And that sucks. It absolutely sucks. And because also of the mentality that I grew up in, the Russian one, it was kind of harder to make friends with the American mentality because it's just different. For example, in Russia, you do not just call anybody your friend. Like a friend in Russia is like a person with whom you've built a bond with. But in America, it's just kind of like, oh, like he's a friend. Oh, she's a friend. We went out once. Like, yeah, he's a friend. We're friends. It's not really like that in Russia. So that was difficult. And because I had a hard time making friends, I had to express myself somehow. So that's actually when I started creating content on YouTube. I started posting videos. It was a character channel. I was playing Ashley, Hugs and Kisses, girls and maybe boys for watching this. My name is Ashley. And she had a sister, Constance, who's super smart and has this Russian accent, and they're sisters. I can't believe I can still do the voices. But yeah, Nerd and Bloody, that's out there on YouTube if you want to watch. I never got past 147 subscribers, and fun fact, I actually bought for free. I did not pay for this. Like I found a website that would give you subscribers for free, 100 of them. So 47 real subscribers, 100 fake ones. Never bought subscribers since. And I'm now at 105,000 followers on Instagram. So I guess it all works out. But I did manage to make a friend in that fifth grade class, and her name is Yui. I don't know anything about her now because she moved back to Japan. But something I remember is we were just hanging out, I think at lunch break, and she asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I want to be a professional tennis player." But then I was like, "But I want to be an entrepreneur." And thing is, at that time, I don't even know if I really knew what entrepreneur meant, but I remember knowing that an entrepreneur is somebody who works for themselves. And look at me now, a successful creator and entrepreneur. I think I just knew. Deep down in my bones, I knew. But genuinely, I always knew that I wanted to work for myself, which is why I graduated high school early and I never went to college. I have more than a year and a half worth of college credits, but I never pursued college full time. I just took classes to learn because I absolutely love learning. But that theme of not really being able to make friends, it kind of persisted throughout middle school and high school also. I had some school friends, but I didn't really have people that I deeply resonated with, because I feel like a lot of the conversation in middle school and high school, you know how it is. It's like, oh, would you get on the math test? Like, how was it hard or not? Like, I don't know. I just didn't really feel like I resonated with people on that level. And I also, that's when I started getting into self-improvement in high school during quarantine, 2020 especially. And I felt like nobody cared about self-growth as much as I did. And that felt lonely. That felt lonely. Because people would ask like, oh, what are you doing later today? And I'd be like, oh, I'm going for a run. And they'd be like, why? Like, why? You know what I mean? And I feel like especially when you're a teenager, you already feel like the world is against you. But when people in your circle just do not get you, that feels lonely. That was bad. So my 15 to 16-year-old era was probably the rock bottom of my life. And then when I was 17, I started posting self-improvement content. But here's how my professional creator journey really started. So I remember I was 16, almost 17, I think somewhere around that time. And people always complaining about school, especially during quarantine. People would be like, oh my gosh, like school sucks, going to school sucks. And for me, I always viewed education as such an immense opportunity that not a lot of people get. And where I was living, me and my peers had such an enormously wonderful opportunity to learn and get a good quality education that would later propel us in life, whether we're pursuing college or not. And that got me really angry. That's the one thing that just ticked me off. And so I was like, okay, I did my research about the statistics of the number of people that were unable to get an education, so forth and so on. And I did a little skit on my Instagram. And by the way, on my Instagram, I think I had like 300 followers, just people from school. I did not really post on it that actively, but I still posted videos to YouTube just for fun, I guess. And so I shared that video. You can still find it on my Instagram if you go to IGTV tab and scroll all the way down. Yeah, I think I was 16 in that. And that kind of inspired me. I was like, okay, wow, I have a platform, right? Only 300 people follow it, like people from my school, but I don't care. But I have a message of self-improvement because I truly believe that in order to reach your fullest potential, you can utilize self-improvement to do so. And social media if you're a Gen Z. And starting my self-improvement journey around the same time, I got really fired up about the topic. So I remember I started sharing reels on Instagram reels, yeah, we're familiar with that, when they were first kind of coming out. And by the way, I did not want to post on reels at all. I thought TikTok was going to be my main platform because at that time I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I know it's kind of a lot, but bear with me. And because I knew I wanted to be an independent singer-songwriter, I was like, okay, well, I have to grow my social media platforms because I do not want to be signed to a label. So I started posting on TikTok, and then my mom was like, why don't you start posting on Reels? They're just coming out, like it's a hot new thing. And I was like, Mom, no, like I just want to post on TikTok. Point is, I ended up posting on Reels, and 2 Reels back to back that ended up getting around 1 to 3 million views. First reel I posted that blew up, it was about me waking up at 5 a.m. to go for a run because I felt all my days blending into one. And I originally posted that video just for my school peers to see that they can utilize the exercise to feel better, right? To share the message of self-improvement because I was so passionate about it. I fully believe for personal and professional experience that creators with a truly powerful message that they 100% believe in, those are the creators that succeed. And so yeah, 1.5 million. And I woke up one day, I had 8,000 followers on my Instagram account and I was like, wow, that's insane. And that's really how I started building our incredible and wonderful self-improvement community. I had no idea that over 130,000 people total would be as interested in self-improvement as I am. So if you're going through any hardship right now, remember that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. That's something I always think about. And yeah, feeling lonely growing up, having to change your whole life in like a day or like I think actually me and my sisters, we were told that we were going to be leaving the country, Russia, in like a week in advance. Just turning your whole life upside down in that span of time, yeah, it is hard, but a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Remember that. The more hardship you go through, the more you grow. And growth is such a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, most of the growth, it happens in that pain and in that discomfort. But it really helps you get better as a person. I can definitely expand on my story in the episodes to come because it's kind of a long one, but where am I now? I'm a full-time creator. I'm a successful entrepreneur with my own coaching business. I also have, and this is something I'm incredibly proud of, my very own online self-improvement club with a lot of members reaching their fullest potential and us reaching our fullest potential together and inspiring others to do the same. I'm also into music. I've released one song a little bit over than a year ago, and I'm working on my second song that I also plan on releasing, which is so exciting. I'm also into acting. I'm an actress, and I also want to get into commercial modeling. I actually got this idea 2 days ago, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm just sharing it now. So it is with confidence that I can say I'm reaching my fullest potential. And as your success coach, I'm about to share the 5 practical steps and tools that you can take to start reaching your fullest potential as well. And no, it's not going to be the basic advice that you hear all the time of like, wake up early and drink enough water. That's great, but we're going to get a little bit more practical than that. Things that you can implement right away. Let's get into it. Launch to success with Vera V. 1. Know your why. Let me ask you this. What is it that you want truly and personally just for yourself? Because here's the thing. There's this beautiful quote that I always think about is, if you don't know what port you're sailing to, no wind is the right one. If you don't know what target you're hitting, you're not going to hit a target. That's why having goals in life is so important, because goals provide you with direction. Now, it's time for Vera's Value. And Vera's Value is a segment of this podcast that I am implementing to every single podcast that has practical tools that you can do right away. Whether you're listening to this while you're getting ready, while you're driving, whatever it is that you're doing, you can start changing your life and reaching your fullest potential now with Vera's Value. So, Vera's Value number 1. Imagine yourself as your most successful self 1 year from now. And if you're not driving or doing anything like that, then close your eyes and really visualize yourself 1 year from now as your most successful self. What do you look like? What does your life look like? And for this one, it's important to think about all your different life areas. What do your relationships look like? What does your fitness journey look like? How much are you working out? What workouts are you doing? What's your career and professional life looking like? What are your hobbies? What about your self-growth and self-development? And something you can do, and we did this in my Growing Together club, the online self-improvement club that I was telling you about, is we did a vision map of ourselves 1 year from now. So if you're not driving, you can do this. And if you are driving, then note this and do this as soon as you come back, because this will change your life completely. Essentially, what a vision map is you draw yourself 1 year from now. You draw yourself, okay? And why drawing yourself in this case is so important is because when we draw or do something creative like that, we unlock a different part of our brain. Because typically we're so used to just being logical and doing very strategic work in that sense. Versus when you draw, for me personally, I feel like I tap into my inner child. And as you know, children, they have no boundaries in a good sense. They're just so open to the world and to the universe. So if you draw yourself 1 year from now, instead of just thinking and putting bullet points, then you just allow yourself to be more expanded in your outlook and in your vision. You allow yourself to dream, and that's such a wonderful thing. So 1, know your why. Whatever it is that you're doing, know your why behind it, because guess what? If you don't know what you're doing it for, you're not gonna do it. So do not expect yourself to, all right? 2, optimize your social media. Here's the thing. I know in the self-movement community, you always hear like, stop scrolling, get off TikTok. But what people do not realize is that as Gen Z, tackling social media and kind of living with it is a very new thing. Generations before us did not have to deal with it. People in the past, when they wanted to be lazy, they just read a book, which is beneficial for you nonetheless. You know what I mean? As Gen Z, we use social media to connect. So I do not believe that it is realistic to completely cut that out. The all or nothing approach does not work. So instead of cutting out social media, optimize it. Make it work for you. You know what time it is. It's time for Vera's Value. Something you can do right now, this very second, if you're not driving, of course, is implement the grayscale on your phone. You go into settings and then I think display, and then you turn the grayscale on. And basically what it does, and I used to have this, by the way, and it helped a lot, is it makes everything in your phone gray. The reason why we're so addicted to scrolling in our phones is because it is so visually stimulating. We get such large dopamine hits from scrolling all the time because the colors are bright and the text is here, and there's so much media content that we can go through on a daily basis, which is insane. So when you have the grayscale on, it makes it a lot more boring. Like you generally start checking your phone and they're like, okay, well, it's gray. Like there's nothing for me here. So you put it down. Okay, you know how people always say, stop watching other people live their lives and live your own. I agree with that to some extent, but eliminating social media from your life, once again, is not realistic. So what you can do instead is just be mindful of the people you follow. Ask yourself this: do the people I follow truly inspire and empower me to reach my fullest potential? If not, unfollow them. And if you're like, well, Vera, I can't unfollow them, they're my friends or whatever. You know what Instagram has? This is what I love about Instagram. They have a mute button. You can mute posts, stories, and you can mute notes. If you do not want to unfollow somebody, just mute them. Because here's another question. When you visit a social media platform like Instagram or TikTok, how does it make you feel? How do you leave feeling afterwards? Do you leave feeling guilty, jealous? Do you leave feeling drained? Because for me, for example, for Instagram, with the favorite creators that I follow, which by the way are all the people that I generally watch, I leave feeling so inspired and empowered. And that's how it should be. Optimize social media. Don't cut it out. Let go of the people that no longer serve you and start following the people that do. My Instagram is @VeraNothing. That was such a slick self-promo. Follow me now if you're a Gen Z looking to reach your fullest potential. 3, embrace your influence. Besides reaching their fullest potential, successful people inspire others to do the same. And that's really a big value that we have in my Growing Together club. You may think that only creators with 1 million followers or 100,000 followers have the influence and they're able to influence people's minds. But ask yourself this. Think of any person close to you. Maybe your best friend, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your sister. If you told them to go do something, would they do it? If the answer is yes, congratulations, you have influence. Embrace it. All in all, we're all creators. Creators are just people who create and have influence. We all have influence. And regarding creating, if you make art, if you knit, if you crochet, if you act, if you play the piano, if you are an engineer, if you are doing absolutely anything, even if you game, you're a creator. We're all creators and we all have influence. So let's embrace it and start using it for good. You know what time it is? Vera's Value time. Question. And you can answer this even while you're driving. Ask yourself this: is the way you're utilizing social media right now helping you reach your fullest potential? Because in my stories yesterday, I did a little thing where I asked all of our community to send in their works of art, whatever it is, where they're being truly honest and authentic, because I think it is so important to be honest and authentic in the creator space. And I got so many different submissions. And I was looking through each one and I thought to myself, and I also share this on my story as well, I was like, wow, how amazing is it that we all create? And I feel like such a big part of being a creator is getting your art seen, because then otherwise you're just doing art for the sake of art. Besides loving the process, it is equally as important to love sharing the outcome as a creator. whatever creator you are, whatever niche it is. And from personal and professional experience, Instagram and social media are the #1 top way to get your art seen, to show up in the world, to find your community, to build your community, to start a career on social media and start making money and become financially self-sufficient. That's how powerful social media is. And you can do so by embracing your influence. Because here's the thing, I feel like as Gen Z, we consume so much media on a daily basis. I mean, think about the number of TikToks that you watch. How many people's faces do you see on a daily basis? Which, by the way, kind of freaks me out a little bit. And what if you spent just 20% of that time creating instead of consuming? How much would your life change? How much more successful would you be? And that brings me to #4. Stay true, stay you. Think about the super ultra successful people that you know. What's their personality like? That's a really cool question that I thought of this morning. Because, for example, if I think of Emma Chamberlain, everybody knows Emma Chamberlain, everybody loves Emma Chamberlain. I know her personality. I don't know how, but I just know. She is witty, she's funny, and she's also very relatable. She's down to earth. That's her personality. Truly successful creators are honest and they're authentic. They're truly themselves. I used to think that that sort of successful personality had to be crafted and it had to act a certain way in order to be successful, but that's completely false. Because guess what? As people, we know when somebody's fake. Have you ever met a person and you guys were talking and then there was just something off about them? It's nothing that they said or did, but there was just something off. Because that's how fast we interpret information. If somebody's being fake, if they're saying something that they do not believe in, you know. And if somebody's being real and genuine and authentic and they're speaking about something they're passionate about, you know. So be authentic and be you. Because if you're trying to be just like everybody else, then who's going to be like you? Oh. I always think about that question. This goes hand in hand with embracing the power of your influence, because if you are being inauthentic, it's like, think about this. If you follow me and you trust me, right? And I recommend that you use this face wash. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing face wash. I love it so much. It's so great. Makes my skin glowy dewy. You start using it and then it burns your face off. How would you feel in that? How would you feel in that moment? That's why it's so important to be honest and authentic in the creator space, because people actually look up to you, no matter how big or small your community is. That's why morally, I only recommend the products that I love and use on a daily basis. I am the change I want to see. I don't tell people to go out and work out at 6 a.m. every morning and then don't do it myself. That's not very moral, in my humble opinion. Instead, I show people how I'm reaching my fullest potential and inspire and empower them to do the same. I am the change I want to see. Here's how you get 100,000 followers on Instagram or in any social media platform. Is it by posting 3 times a day, Vera? No, it's not. Is it by using trending audios, Vera? No, it's not. Okay, well then how can I get 100,000 followers on Instagram? By staying true and staying you. Authenticity and honesty are key. It's time for Vera's value. Ask yourself this. Are there any parts of yourself and parts of your personality that you're holding back in regards to how you're showing up in the world? Because for me, like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I grew up a very shy kid. And I thought that on social media, I had to look perfect and be super well-spoken because I did not know English at all like 10 years ago. So to kind of overcompensate for that. And I would speak in a very rich and interesting manner, but I was not really showing myself the way I am now. I wasn't showing my silliness. I was not showing my goofiness. I was not really showing the realism of day-to-day life. And as soon as I started, that's when my community started growing. That's when I started growing. As people, we value authenticity and honesty in other people above all, and that's just fact. 5, slow and steady wins the race. Have you ever had this happen to you? It was 3 a.m., you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever is the social platform of your choosing, and then you come across a self-improvement video. And that's of a person who really has their shit together. They know exactly what they're doing, they know exactly what they want. You look at them, you're like, wow, they have this amazing life, and I want to have this amazing life as well. So yes, it is 3 a.m. right now, but tomorrow I'm setting my alarm for 5, and I'm waking up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. And then I'm going for a workout. And then after working out, I'm getting ready, and then I'm going to study for 3 hours before I go to university. And I'm going to make myself a super healthy lunch. And after I come back from classes, instead of watching TV like I usually do every single night, I'm going to go and I'm going to work out again. And then I'm going to top off my night by reading for 4 hours. That's what I'm going to do. Never done before, but I just got to start now. I just got to start now. I know I have. And you know how that ended up? In me sleeping through my alarm. Because the all or nothing mindset, it does not work. It doesn't. Slow and steady wins the race. It's time for Vera's value. Think about one routine that you're really focusing on improving right now. For me, it's my night routine, because the thing that I really want to improve currently is my morning routine. My sleep schedule got shifted a little bit. So in order to wake up early, what do I have to do? Go to sleep early, right? So think of the one routine you're wanting to improve right now. And now ask yourself this. What is the first and simplest step that you can take to start improving that routine? First and simplest step, okay? Do not go around making radical changes to change your life because that's only gonna change your life for that moment. Slow and steady wins the race. Start slow because guess what? You can always speed up. Life is a marathon, it is not a sprint. Whew. That brings us to the end of this podcast episode. I'm so excited to be starting season 2. If you found this episode helpful, inspiring, motivating, or all of the above, send it to one friend who needs to listen to it right now, because I guarantee there's at least one. Remember, successful people are reaching their fullest potential and inspiring others to do the same. So let's do just that. Leave my podcast a rating, and remember that my podcast episodes come out every Monday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, remember, most important thing, we're growing together always. Bye. We'll talk again soon. Launch to success with Vera V.